The phone call came just as I was wrapping up a long day at work. The hum of the office had finally quieted, and I was tidying up my desk, mentally preparing to head home. My phone buzzed, and seeing my wife's name on the screen brought a smile to my face. It wasn't unusual for her to call around this time, usually to remind me to pick something up or ask how my day had been. "Hey, love," I answered, warmth in my voice. "I was just about to head out. What's up?" Her tone when she replied was cold, so cold it sent a chill through me. "Nathan, I need to talk to you." I paused, my smile fading. "Is everything okay?" "No," she said bluntly. "I want a divorce." The words hit me like a freight train. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Divorce? It sounded foreign, completely out of context. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but I had never imagined things were bad enough for this. "Wait, what?" I stammered, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Emma, what are you talking about? A divorce? Where is this coming from?" "I've made up my mind," she said, emotionless. "I don't want to discuss it. If you have questions, speak to my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" I repeated, my chest tightening. "You've already spoken to a lawyer?" "Yes," she said simply. "You'll be hearing from him soon. Don't try to call me Nathan. This is final." "Final?" I echoed, my voice rising. "Emma, this is insane. At least give me an explanation. What happened? What did I do wrong?" There was a long pause, and for a moment I thought she might offer some insight. But when she finally spoke, her voice was as cold and detached as before. "I don't owe you an explanation," she said. "This is what I want. Goodbye, Nathan." The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, stunned and speechless. My heart pounded as my mind raced with questions that had no answers. How could this be happening? We'd been married for 7 years. While things hadn't been perfect, I thought we were solid. Sure, there had been distance lately. She had seemed more withdrawn, but I had chalked it up to stress. I never thought it would come to this. The drive home was a blur. Her words replayed over and over in my head, each repetition adding a new layer of confusion and pain. "I don't owe you an explanation." How could she be so cold, so dismissive of everything we'd shared? When I finally walked through the door of our home, the emptiness hit me like a physical blow. The house was quiet, eerily so. In her absence, her presence was palpable. I wandered through the rooms, looking for some clue, some sign of what had gone so horribly wrong. But everything looked the same, neatly arranged, perfectly in place, except everything had changed. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty seat across from me. This was where we used to sit together, share dinner, talk about our days, make weekend plans. Now it was a hollow reminder of what I'd lost. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every moment over the past year. Had I missed something? Was there a warning sign I had ignored? By morning, I was exhausted, but resolute. I wasn't going to let this end without understanding why. If Emma wouldn't give me an explanation, I would find one myself. The next few days passed in a haze of disbelief. Her abrupt call replayed in my mind like a haunting refrain. I couldn't focus on work, on friends, on anything. Then came the email. It was from her lawyer, Henry Clark. The message was professional and clinical, outlining the steps for the impending divorce and requesting a meeting to discuss terms. Reading it felt like a punch to the gut. Emma had planned this, strategically, meticulously. She had moved pieces on a chessboard I didn't even know existed. I scheduled the meeting for 2 days later, a mix of dread and determination brewing inside me. When the day arrived, I walked into the law office with my head high, though my insides were twisted in knots. The receptionist greeted me with a rehearsed smile and directed me to a conference room. Henry was already there, seated at a polished, wooden table with a stack of papers in front of him. He looked up as I entered, a flicker of something, guilt, unease, passing through his expression before it vanished. "Nathan," he said, standing to shake my hand. "Please, have a seat." I studied him as I sat. He was older, well-dressed, but tired. His hands trembled slightly as he shuffled the papers. "I know this situation is difficult," he began, tone measured. "I'll do my best to make the process smooth." "I appreciate the sentiment, Mr. Clark," I said, crossing my arms. "But I didn't come here to talk logistics. I came for answers. Why is Emma doing this? What changed?" He hesitated, gaze dropping to the papers. "I'm not at liberty to discuss personal matters." "Don't give me that," I snapped. "You're working with my wife to dismantle our marriage. I deserve to know why. Was there someone else? Did I do something wrong?" Henry's hands stilled. For a moment, the professional mask slipped. He looked conflicted. "Nathan," he said slowly, "I understand your frustration, but my role is to represent my client." I leaned forward, voice low. "Mr. Clark, you seem like a decent man. I can see you're uncomfortable. Whatever Emma told you, please, as one human being to another, tell me the truth." He looked toward the door, as if expecting Emma to barge in. Finally, he sighed and removed his glasses. "I shouldn't be telling you this," he muttered, "but you deserve to know." I held my breath. "Your wife's been planning this for months. She's been gathering evidence to secure the majority of your shared assets, and she's been seeing someone else." The words crushed me. I had suspected deep down, but confirmation hurt in a way I wasn't prepared for. "Someone else?" I whispered. He nodded, avoiding my gaze. "I can't give you specifics, but she's been strategic. She's not just ending the marriage. She's trying to come out ahead." Anger surged through me, sharp and blinding. Months. She'd been planning this while I worked late, thinking we were just in a rough patch. She had smiled to my face while plotting behind my back. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. "Thank you, Mr. Clark," I said curtly. "You've told me what I needed." He looked at me, a flicker of regret in his eyes. "Nathan, for what it's worth, I'm sorry." I didn't respond. I walked out, my thoughts a storm of heartbreak and rage. When I got home, the house felt colder than ever. The walls that once echoed with laughter now pressed in with silence. But beneath the chaos of emotion, a new clarity formed. She wanted a fight? Emma's betrayal still felt invasive, wrong, even after everything she had done. But Chris was right. If I wanted to protect myself, I needed every piece of information I could get. After a sleepless night wrestling with the decision, I made the call. The investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Diane, assured me she would handle everything discreetly. "You'll have what you need," she promised. "Just be patient." Patience wasn't my strong suit, but I didn't have a choice. For now, all I could do was wait and prepare. Emma had set this game in motion, but I was determined to finish it on my terms. That night in my workshop, the weight of it all settled on me. Her betrayal, the lies, the looming battle. It was overwhelming, but beneath the exhaustion there was a spark, a new kind of determination. Emma thought she held the upper hand. She underestimated me. This wasn't over. The following days tested me in ways I hadn't expected. Diane's updates were sparse but methodical. Each email or call filled me with a mix of dread and anticipation. I wasn't even sure what I hoped she'd find. Proof of Emma's affair would validate my suspicions, but also destroy the last remnants of the woman I had once loved. Meanwhile, Chris and I built my defense. He was relentless, dissecting every lie Emma had told to paint me as inattentive or unworthy. We compiled bank statements, financial transfers, lavish purchases. My anger hardened from raw pain into steel resolve. "She's counting on you folding," Chris said one night. "Prove her wrong." I nodded. I wouldn't let Emma erase me from the life I had helped build. Then Diane called. "Nathan," she said, calm but urgent. "I've got something. It's significant." I sat up straight. "What is it?" "She's been seeing someone. His name is Eric Lawson. He's a partner at her firm." The name hit like a punch to the gut. A colleague. Suddenly her late nights, her work trips, the gaslighting, it all made sense. Eric had been there all along. "There's more," Diane added. "Travel records, dinners, a hotel stay the night before she told you about the divorce." It was a second blow, but this one fueled my resolve. "Do you have proof?" I asked. "I do. Photos, receipts, timestamps. Everything you'll need." The next day, Chris and I reviewed the evidence. It was damning. Photos of Emma and Eric, hotel bills, flight records, expensive dinners, a paper trail of betrayal. "This changes everything," Chris said. "Infidelity discredits her claims and strengthens your position." I nodded, a grim satisfaction settling over me. Emma's lawyer, Henry, soon reached out to finalize asset distribution. We agreed to a meeting, knowing it was the perfect time to reveal the truth. The room was cold and tense. Emma sat across from me, composed but wary. "I hope we can settle this quickly," she said. "That depends on you," I replied. As Henry outlined her outrageous demands, the house, the car, most of my savings, I interrupted. "Before we go further, there's something you should see." I slid the folder across the table. Emma hesitated. "What is this?" "Proof of your affair with Eric Lawson." Her face drained of color. Her hands trembled as she opened the file. "You had me followed?" "I had to." "You've been lying to me for months, plotting this divorce while siphoning money from our accounts." Henry looked to Emma, his voice low. "Is this true?" She didn't answer. Her silence spoke volumes. "This changes nothing," she finally snapped, but her voice wavered. "No," I said, leaning forward. "What changes is the power. Dynamic. You don't get to lie, cheat, and walk away with everything." Chris took the lead, calmly presenting a revised asset proposal. Emma skimmed it, her hands shaking. "This is outrageous," she said. "It's fair," Chris replied. "Given the circumstances, you're still receiving a settlement, but not the windfall you expected." Emma didn't argue. Not really. The evidence had crushed her leverage. "This isn't over," she muttered. I met her eyes. "You're right, it's not. But now I'm in control." After the meeting, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Peace. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was taking charge. Chris called the next day. "Henry's willing to negotiate," he said. "Emma knows she's lost her footing." "Good," I replied. "Let's make sure the terms reflect the truth." Negotiations dragged on, but Emma's confidence faded. At one tense meeting, she finally broke her silence. "You think you've won," she said bitterly, "but you'll never understand why I did this." "Maybe not," I said, "but it doesn't excuse what you did." She had no reply. When the settlement was finalized, I kept most of what I'd built. More importantly, I kept my dignity. Emma's plans had collapsed. She walked away with less than she expected, and I walked away with my integrity intact. That evening, Diane sent one final email. Subject: Final notes. Emma had moved in with Eric. They were seen traveling, dining, attending events together. But Diane's last line lingered. "There are early signs of tension. Sources say Eric's been distant. Emma seems to be struggling to maintain the image she built." I set the phone down. I didn't feel triumph, just clarity. She had made her choices. Now she was living with them. In the months that followed, I began reclaiming my life. I reconnected with old friends, took up hiking, woodworking, even painting, things I had once loved but set aside. One evening in my garage, sanding down a new piece of furniture, I realized, for the first time in years, I wasn't living for someone else. I was living for me. Chris called a few weeks later. "How's post-divorce life?" he asked. "Better than I expected," I said. "I feel free." "You've been through hell, Nathan, but you came out stronger. Don't forget that." I smiled. He was right. The scars were still there, but they were healing. I didn't hear much about Emma and Eric anymore. Occasionally, someone mentioned seeing them, strained, distant, a shadow of the image they once projected. But that was no longer my concern. I had a new story to write, one where I was no longer a victim, but the author of my own life. One quiet evening, I stood on a hill overlooking the city, the sunset painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. A profound sense of peace washed over me. The journey had been anything but easy, but it had been worth it. Emma's betrayal, once the collapse of my world, now felt like the start of something far greater. I had reclaimed my life, and for the first time in years, it truly felt like mine. Months passed. The weight of the divorce lifted slowly, like fog retreating after a long storm. Each day brought more clarity and freedom. The scars Emma left behind were still there, but they no longer ached. They had become quiet reminders of what I had survived and overcome. I threw myself into my workshop, turning my passion for woodworking into a growing business. Orders came in steadily, and each finished piece felt like a small triumph. Creating beauty from raw materials became my therapy, a tangible way to rebuild what had once been shattered. One afternoon, my phone rang. It was Diane, the private investigator who had helped uncover Emma's affair. I hadn't heard from her since the divorce was finalized. "Diane," I said, surprised, "what's going on?" "I thought you should know," she began cautiously. "I've been keeping tabs on Emma and Eric per our original agreement. Things aren't going well." I hesitated. "What do you mean?" "They've been fighting a lot. Rumors suggest Eric's seeing someone else." I wasn't surprised, but hearing it still left a bittersweet taste. Emma had built her new life on deception, and now that foundation was crumbling. I thanked Diane and hung up, emotions swirling. A part of me felt vindicated. Another part felt an unexpected pang of sadness. Despite everything, I wouldn't wish that kind of pain on anyone. That night, while working on a custom dining table, I reflected on how far I'd come. The heartbreak that once consumed me had given way to quiet strength. I no longer needed to dwell on Emma's choices. My focus was firmly on the road ahead. A week later, I bumped into Sarah at a local market, an old friend I'd lost touch with during the isolated years of my marriage. Seeing her felt like recovering a part of myself. "Nathan," she said, beaming, "it's been ages. How are you?" We spent an hour catching up. The conversation flowed easily, filled with stories of my business and her travels. As we said goodbye, she slipped a piece of paper into my hand. "Don't be a stranger this time," she said with a wink. "Let's grab coffee soon." I smiled, tucking her number into my pocket. For the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. Not just for companionship, but for the chance to build something real with someone who might actually value me. Meanwhile, news of Emma continued to trickle in. Her relationship with Eric had ended. She was struggling, financially, emotionally, socially. I didn't gloat, but I couldn't ignore the quiet symmetry. She had chased excitement, and now she was left with regret. I didn't reach out. That chapter was closed. Her journey was hers to walk. In time, I stopped hearing updates about her. I stopped thinking about her altogether. My energy was poured into my life, one rooted in authenticity and self-respect. Coffee with Sarah turned into weekly meetups. Laughter came easily. Her honesty was a refreshing contrast to the deceit I had endured. With her, I felt safe. I felt seen. One evening, as we watched the sunset from my porch, she turned to me. "You seem different," she said gently. "Lighter, like you've let go of something heavy." "I think I have," I said. "I carried so much anger for so long. But I'm done with it now. It's freeing." She smiled, reaching for my hand. "I'm glad. You deserve that." And I believed her. As the months passed, my woodworking business blossomed. Customers raved about the craftsmanship, and a boutique retailer offered to carry my pieces. What began as therapy had become a thriving enterprise. Sarah and I grew closer. What started as casual connection deepened into something grounded and real. She wasn't just a partner. She was a friend, confidant, and equal. With her, I felt like I had finally found peace, not in someone else, but in myself. Then one day, an unexpected email appeared in my inbox. From Emma. "Nathan, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed to reach out. I've been doing a lot of reflecting, and I realize how much damage I caused. I don't expect forgiveness, but I regret what I did. You deserved better." I read it twice. Her words were sincere, but they didn't hit me like they might have once. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I didn't feel much at all. I had already made peace with our past. Her regret was hers to carry. I archived the email and moved on. That evening, I stepped outside as the sun dipped below the horizon. Sarah joined me, slipping her hand into mine. The cool breeze carried with it the weightlessness of a life I had fought to rebuild. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, fully, intentionally, and on my own terms. Emma's betrayal had once marked the end of everything. Now it was simply the beginning of something far greater.